Hello, everyone. Kelly Baldwin here with Brett Jennings, Real Estate Experts. I hope you're all staying safe. I know we're not able to meet and have meetings in person right now, so really taking advantage of Zoom and our virtual meetings. Wanted to put some data together for you. I think you might find helpful about the past 5 recessions and how it's impacted the Bay Area real estate and the prices. So have about a 10-minute presentation here. If you have a few minutes, I would love for you to watch. I know this is recorded, so if you have any questions, I will have my contact information below. If you want to chat about this a little bit more, if you have any specific questions, please let me know. But I'm going to share my screen with you, and I hope that all of you can see this. So this really is going to go over, the crisis that we're in right now. Like I said, we've all been stuck at home for the past month. So my team and I have really dug in and done a lot of research. So what we found is, the pandemic that we're in right now has a lot of similarities to what has happened in a 2001 dot-com and 9/11 terror attack. At that time, the economy was in a state of shock. It also generated a lot of fear, anxiety amongst the general public. People were avoiding big crowds as they believed, another terror attack was going to be happening. And it's really the same way that people are starting to act today, right? The same industries have been affected with airlines, leisure, hospitality, restaurants, concerts, events. People are really avoiding those. Next slide. Recession does not equal a housing crisis. So with that being said, with the sudden economic stop and with the growth and with many states shutting down and closing schools, bars, and restaurants, my view is the U.S. economy is now in a recession, which started in March of 2020, and the GDP, the gross domestic product, will probably decline sharply in Q2, which we've already seen before. And of course, the length of the recession is really going to depend on the course of the pandemic and how quickly we can get out of this and out of the shelter in place and back to as close to our normal lives as we can possibly get, right? So this goes back to the GDP forecast that I just previously mentioned in the previous slide. Q2, we had a sharp decline. Not sure if it's going to, be a 6 months down, a year down, but they're certainly anticipating a pretty quick recovery, once we get out of this into Q3, Q4, and possibly strong gains in early 2021. So they're anticipating, it all depends on who you ask and what news you're listening to. But from our data, our resources, we're seeing it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. So that's what we can only hope. And this pandemic has nothing to do with the financial sector. It's completely external, and the economy was so strong before we got into this. And being in the unique market that we're in right now, and being in the Bay Area with all tech, we already have a shortage of inventory. So hopefully we'll see a strong recovery. I've had a lot of questions and people comparing this to 2008 to 2011. We certainly do not expect to see a repeat of the recession in 2008 and 2009 because that collapse and that recession solely had a lot to do on the real estate market. We're anticipating the real estate market to actually pull us out of this recession. And once the virus, the infection rates peak, again, we expect to see a recovery and gain momentum into the final quarter, second half of the year, and certainly into 2021. A great metaphor that I heard on one of my training calls was 2008 and 2009. It was really like a tornado came through the US and the economy. It destroyed cities, it tore down buildings. People spent months and years rebuilding their homes, their communities. What we're in now, we're seeing is we're in the middle of a blizzard, which is inconvenient, right? We can't go out to the stores or with our friends and get food with our family and celebrate. But, we're stuck inside. Once the sun peaks out, the snow's going to start to melt and we're going to go back to our normal lives. Hopefully. That's the goal. So this is the home price change throughout the US as a whole during the past 5 recessions. And as you can see, out of the past 5, 3 of them, the prices increased there shortly after, especially in 2001. Again, is what we're comparing our pandemic that we're in now to. 2008, you know, the home prices for the previous 6 years leading up to 2008 were really appreciating a lot, on average 8% a year to 12% a year. We haven't seen that in the past 6 years leading up until today. Really, we've seen an appreciation, typically 3, 4, 5%. And we did some research, and I have the numbers here. 78% of the people in the Bay Area have over 50% of equity in their homes. And people just aren't going to be walking away from that. And the same goes to the U.S. economy as well. On average, your typical home price in the rest of the country is $250,000. Still, those people have about 50% equity, which is $125,000 in their homes. People are not walking away from that like they were in 2008 when people weren't putting any money down when they were getting a loan, and they had negative equity, and people were willing to walk away from that. So we've seen a lot of, policies, safeguards put into place. So we kind of learned from our mistakes from 2008. And then I also had a lot of people, waiting for those foreclosures to come on the market. Honestly, the government has given I believe a 6 months forbearance on mortgages if you can prove that you've been affected by the virus. So a typical foreclosure takes about 7 months, once you stop paying your mortgage, and things kind of proceed there. So we're really not going to see any foreclosures for probably the next year or so, in effect, directly correlating to this. So how has the housing market been impacted by previous stock market crashes? Well, we do know a lot of people in this area use quite a bit of their money from the stock markets to put on a down payment. So it certainly could affect quite a few people here. So during a crisis or a crash, Bay Area real estate is still the safest to be, and I will show you why. This is our housing chart for the past 40 years in the Bay Area real estate. It goes in cycles, right? So every 6 to 7 years, we typically have a run up. And then for the most part, what is typically a 10%, market correction. And the prices typically correct because the home prices go up way faster than our wages do, and buyers are already stretched. So it typically has a correction. But for the most part, this is kind of what we have been seeing the past 40 years. It dips down, but of course, over time, home prices are gonna go up. So again, tying this to the dot-com pop, the 9/11 terror attack, the stock markets went down 73%. How did that affect our prices in the Bay Area? It brought them down 10%. In 2008, during the recession, the stocks went down 53%. And over the course of a few years, real estate in the Bay Area went down 27%. In 2018, 2019, Facebook, Apple, Google, Netflix, those stocks went down about 25 to 40%. And Bay Area real estate went down about 8%. So that brings us, people are still buying and selling. I've done 13 deals this year alone myself, and 2 of them being over Easter weekend. Both deals that we got accepted had multiple offers, and they both went over asking price. It's still a great market for buyers right now just because the interest rates are so low, and the rate that we're selling homes, it's an equivalent to about 2.5 months of inventory. In a healthy market, you have 6 to 8 months of inventory, but being in California, we always have a shortage. That's why we've been in the seller's market for so long. But we had 170 new single family homes come on the market last week in Santa Clara County. 128 of them went pending, and we had 130 single family homes still sell. So that kind of gives you a few numbers and puts things into a little bit of perspective for you. Almost done. For the past 50 years, the 30-year mortgage rate has moved in unison, one-on-one with the 10-year treasury rate, as you can see here. But in the past few weeks, it really hasn't followed suit like we've seen in the past 30 years. The reason is because typically the spread increases because the mortgage refinance applications, you know, they can't handle the amount of demand. So the lender offered rates don't typically follow the treasury yield down one for one. And it is plausible that the mortgage rates will fall further if the benchmark 10-year treasury bond yield, you know, declines further. It is reasonable to expect that rates will fall even further and likely surpass the prior record low, but not necessarily one for one with the 10-year treasury yield. And lastly, this is the past few years of the mortgage rate. We saw a top at 4.75% in December 2018, and we saw the bottom at 3.29% in March 2005. You know, because the Feds put out a 0% interest rate doesn't necessarily correlate to you're getting a 0% on your 30-year mortgage. So the lenders were flooded with a lot of calls and people wanting to get pre-approved. So some of the banks we've seen have actually increased their interest rates, but still they're low. They're anticipating about 88% of the loans closing. So again, people are still buying, people are still selling, people are still getting loans. I think it is a really great opportunity if you find a home that you like. We're still able to show homes in person. If it's vacant, we can do virtual in-person tours. If it's owner occupied, we can do virtual tours. But you know, if there's any homes that you see that you like that I'm sending your way, please let me know. We can continue to move this forward. And if you have any questions or anything about my presentation, please let me know. But I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope to see you in person soon or talk to you. If you have any questions, again, my name is Kelly Baldwin. My phone number is 408-827-1866. Again, this is Kelly Baldwin, and I hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.